All right, so we're diving deep today, folks, into the world of brain power.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. You guys sent in a bunch of excerpts from this podcast called Brain Boost. And, it really got me thinking about all the ways we can kind of, amp up our mental game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we're going to be doing in this deep dive.
Love it.
And hopefully by the end, we'll all walk away with some actionable strategies to really sharpen our minds, feel more energized, just kind of, unlock that brain power, right?
I think we can definitely do that. I'm excited to share some insights, from my own experience and from what we've learned from Brain Boost as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that really jumped out at me from that podcast was how much our diet plays a role in brain function,
Yeah.
It's like we always hear about, food is fuel for the body, but it's really like fuel for the brain as well.
Oh, absolutely. The brain is so metabolically active.
Yeah.
It uses a huge amount of the energy that we consume every day.
I think they said 20%, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it's a significant portion. Yeah. So it makes sense that what we feed our bodies has a direct impact on how well our brains function.
Totally. So I'm ready to hear about some of these brain boosting superstars.
Okay, so let's talk brain food. Brain Boost highlighted some really interesting stuff.
Okay.
One of the key players, of course, we've all heard about them, omega-3 fatty acids. But it's important to note that there are different types of omega-3s. Right. And EPA and DHA are the ones that are particularly important for brain health.
Okay.
So EPA and DHA are crucial for building those cell membranes and facilitating communication between our brain cells.
Yeah, and I've read that, especially DHA is super vital for cognitive development and function.
Yeah, that's right. It's especially important during those, crucial periods of brain development. But it continues to be important throughout our lives.
Gotcha. So where can we find these essential fatty acids?
Well, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, they're excellent sources of both EPA and DHA.
Okay.
But for those who don't eat fish or don't like seafood,
right,
there are some great plant-based sources as well.
Okay, like what?
Walnuts are fantastic.
Yeah.
Flax seeds, chia seeds.
Ooh, I put chia seeds in my yogurt every morning.
There you go.
Maybe that's my secret. I don't know.
You're already ahead of the game.
Okay, Brain Boost also talked about the power of antioxidants, right?
Yes.
So how do those play into brain health?
Well, you can think of antioxidants as these little protectors for your brain cells.
Yep.
They shield them from damage. There are these things called free radicals, which are unstable molecules.
Right.
And they can damage cells.
Oh, yeah.
But antioxidants come in and neutralize those free radicals.
Okay.
So they prevent that damage from happening.
So it's like a little force field for your precious brain cells.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, cool. So which foods are packed with these protective antioxidants?
Well, they highlighted blueberries, dark chocolate, the kind with the high cacao percentage.
Right.
And green tea.
Okay.
All great sources of antioxidants.
Okay, what's funny is I actually, after listening to that podcast, I swapped out my afternoon cookie for a handful of blueberries and like a square or two of dark chocolate. And I have to say, I do feel a little bit sharper.
I bet you do.
Maybe it's a placebo effect. I don't know.
Well, hey, if it works, right?
True. Okay, so we've talked about food. What about hydration?
Yes, hydration. This is huge.
Yeah.
It might seem obvious,
right,
but it's so crucial for brain function.
I always hear about drinking enough water for everything, but I'm curious, why is it so important specifically for our brains?
Well, think about it. Our brains are mostly water,
Go.
Like 75% water.
Oh, wow.
So even mild dehydration can really mess with our mental clarity.
Yeah.
You get fatigued, brain fog. It's harder to concentrate.
Yeah, it's like running a car without enough oil, right?
Exactly. You need that water to keep everything running smoothly.
Okay. You know what? I am definitely going to be more mindful about my water intake.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, so Brain Boost also brought up this Mediterranean diet, right?
Yes. They talked about it as a model for brain health, and it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Healthy fats, whole grains, lean protein, lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, and what I like about it is it's not about restriction.
Right. Exactly.
It's about incorporating this diverse range of foods, right?
Absolutely.
That all work together to support your brain. And there's this surprising ingredient in there that I didn't realize was so good for the brain, but they talked about olive oil.
Oh, yes. Olive oil is a powerhouse.
Okay.
It's full of those monounsaturated fats, which have been linked to better cognitive function.
Yeah.
And even reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
Yeah, so drizzle away.
Drizzle away. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about fueling our brains with good food. What about physical activity?
Oh, yeah. This is another big one.
Yeah.
Brain boost. Really emphasize that too. And not just for, physical fitness, but for brain health.
Right, so it's like getting the blood pumping and oxygen flowing to the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we move, it actually stimulates the release of these growth factors that support the growth and survival of brain cells.
So it's like an oxygen boost, right?
Yes, you can think of it that way.
For your brain.
Yes, absolutely. It's like giving your brain a breath of fresh air.
Okay, and they specifically mentioned aerobic exercise, right?
Yeah, things like running, swimming, cycling, even brisk walking.
Yeah, I find that even a quick walk around the block can really help me clear my head.
Absolutely. It gets the blood flowing.
Yeah.
Wakes up the brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about finding ways to incorporate movement into your day,
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like intense cardio every time.
No, not at all.
So what are some other forms of movement that are good for the brain?
Well, they highlighted, mind-body workouts like yoga and Tai Chi.
Okay.
It's not just about flexibility and balance. They also emphasize controlled breathing and mindfulness, which can be really helpful for reducing stress and improving focus.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of yoga, and I'm always amazed at how much calmer and clearer my mind feels after a session.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all about lowering those stress hormones like cortisol, which can actually be harmful to brain cells over time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yoga and Tai Chi, they help us tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation and reduces those harmful stress responses.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you know what else they mentioned that I love? They mentioned dancing.
Oh,
Which I thought was...
It's so good for the brain.
No, I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
Something fun,
Yeah, it's a party for your brain.
Yeah.
You're engaging multiple areas at once.
Totally.
Memory, coordination, balance.
Yeah, and it's a great way to socialize as well.
Absolutely. And there's research that shows that dancing can actually reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So put on your dancing shoes and get those brain cells grooving.
I like that. All right, so we've talked about fueling the brain with good food, getting our bodies moving.
Yes.
But what about exercising our minds directly?
Ah, yes. Mental training. This is where it gets really interesting. That 20% energy statistic we talked about.
Right.
It really highlights how much our brains are working all the time.
Yeah.
And just like our bodies need physical exercise,
right,
our brains need mental workouts too.
Okay, yeah. Brain Boost really emphasized that.
Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
So we need to keep challenging our brains if we want them to stay sharp.
Totally.
And one of the best ways to do that is through lifelong learning.
Okay.
Always be seeking out new knowledge, new skills. It keeps your brain adaptable and flexible.
So can you talk a little bit more about that? Like what is brain plasticity?
Oh, yeah. So brain plasticity is basically the brain's ability to change and rewire itself throughout life.
Okay.
It's constantly creating new pathways and connections within the brain. So it's like it keeps it adaptable and resilient.
So the more we challenge our brains, the more adaptable they become.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be, something super complex or academic. It could be anything that's new and stimulating.
I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar.
There you go.
Maybe now's the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure my brain would thank me for it.
I'm sure it would.
Okay, what about those classic, brain games and puzzles?
Ah, yes, the mental gym.
Yeah, so which ones offer the best workout for our brains?
Well, they highlighted a few that are really popular. Sudoku, crosswords, chess, even strategic video games.
Okay.
All of these require, problem solving, critical thinking, memory recall.
Okay.
They all help keep those cognitive skills nice and sharp.
I used to think of brain games as like something my grandparents did, but I've recently rediscovered the joy of a good crossword puzzle.
Yeah, it's so satisfying.
I get it.
To solve those clues, you know?
Yeah. And it's a nice way to start the day.
Absolutely.
Get your brain going.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about fueling the brain, exercising our bodies and minds, but Brain Boost also highlighted this other element that I thought was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Social connection.
Yes.
And the importance of taking a digital detox. I was like, really? Our social lives can impact our brain health.
Oh, absolutely. Humans are inherently social creatures.
Right.
We thrive on connection and interaction.
Yeah.
And research actually shows that strong social ties are linked to a lower risk of dementia.
Wow. So it's not just good for our hearts.
Yeah.
It's good for our brains, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But on the flip side, you know, we have this potential downside of excessive screen time.
Right.
You know, our brains are bombarded with information and stimulation from our devices. And it can really take a toll on our attention spans and overall cognitive function.
Yeah, so what can we do to combat that digital overload?
Yeah.
Like, is a complete digital detox the only solution?
Well, a complete digital detox might not be realistic for most people.
Right.
But Brain Boost made a good point about being more mindful of our screen time and incorporating regular digital detoxes into our routines.
Yeah, and I think they recommended like this strategy called the 20-20-20 rule, right?
Yes, yes. Every 20 minutes, look away from your screen.
Okay.
Focus on something 20 feet away.
Yeah.
For 20 seconds. This gives your eyes a break.
Right.
Helps reset your mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I can do that.
It's a simple but effective technique.
Yeah. It's just about, finding those little changes that could have a big impact.
Exactly. Exactly. Small steps lead to big results.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough job of unpacking those Brain Boost excerpts, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
We've covered nutrition, movement, even social connections.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that these strategies aren't just about making us smarter.
Right.
They're about supporting overall brain health.
Absolutely.
And well-being.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a holistic approach to brain health,
Right. And that's what I really appreciate about it. It's not just about, cramming information into your head.
Right.
It's about taking care of your brain.
Absolutely.
So that it can function at its best.
Yeah.
Now, before we dive into specific strategies for, incorporating these brain-boosting habits,
Okay.
we're going to take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a moment to explore how you can put this knowledge into action.
Can't wait.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to our deep dive into boosting brain power. I don't know about you, but I'm already feeling inspired to make some changes. But I have to admit, sometimes knowing what to do is easier than actually doing it.
Oh, I hear you. It can feel a little overwhelming to try to incorporate all these strategies at once.
Yeah, totally.
But I think the key is to remember that, small changes can make a big difference.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection.
So true, so true. So in this segment, let's get specific and talk about practical ways to weave these habits into our daily lives.
Okay, I like it.
So, we've covered the importance of omega-3 fatty acids. If you're aiming to boost your intake.
Yeah.
How can you make that happen realistically?
Well, one simple strategy is to just make fatty fish a regular part of your meal planning.
Yeah.
Aim for at least 2 servings per week. Salmon is a great option.
Right.
Bake it, grill it, even try out salmon salad for lunch.
Oh, I love salmon.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yeah.
And it's so good for you.
So what about for folks who aren't big seafood fans, What are some other ways to get those brain-boosting omega-3s?
Well, there are plenty of plant-based options.
Sure.
Like we talked about earlier, walnuts are fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly versatile. You can add them to trail mix, sprinkle them on salads, even make walnut pesto.
Oh, walnut pesto. That sounds delicious.
It is really good.
Okay. I have to try that.
Yeah.
I also like to add chia seeds and flax seeds to my yogurt and smoothies.
Yeah.
Just kind of sneak them in there.
That's a great way to do it. Smoothies are fantastic for packing in a lot of those brain-boosting nutrients.
Yeah.
You can get really creative with your ingredients.
Oh, yeah.
Throw in some blueberries, some spinach, maybe a dollop of Greek yogurt, a spoonful of cocoa powder.
Yeah.
You've got a delicious and brain-boosting breakfast or snack.
Yeah, or like, you know what else I like to do?
What's that?
I recently discovered this blueberry lemon chia seed pudding recipe.
Oh, wow.
Which is like, it's like dessert for breakfast.
Sounds amazing.
But it's good for you,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, there you go. See, eating for your brain doesn't have to be boring.
Exactly.
It can be fun and delicious.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
And talk about, incorporating movement into our routines. So we discussed, the benefits of aerobic exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But what if running marathons isn't really your thing?
Yeah, not everyone's cut out for marathons.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a marathon runner. I prefer something a little bit more low impact.
Sure.
But still invigorating, So what are some alternatives for folks who aren't drawn to, like, intense cardio?
Well, you don't have to be a marathon runner to reap the benefits of aerobic exercise.
Right.
Even a brisk walk in the park,
yeah,
a bike ride with friends, or, a dance class, those can all do wonders for your brain.
You know what? I've been meaning to try a Zumba class.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like so much fun, and I've heard it's a great way to, get your heart rate up.
It is.
Release those endorphins.
And it's fun. You're moving, you're listening to music.
Right.
It's a great way to get your body and your brain moving.
Yeah, and it's social, too.
Exactly.
So, hitting all those points.
There you go.
Okay, speaking of mind-body practices, we talked about yoga and Tai Chi earlier.
Yes.
I heard people rave about the mental clarity they experience.
Yeah.
After practicing these disciplines. So what's the science behind that?
Well, both yoga and Tai Chi, they involve these deep breathing techniques and mindfulness.
Right.
And that helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our body's kind of rest and digest mode, as opposed to the fight or flight response,
right? That's
triggered by stress.
So it's like hitting the reset button on our stress response.
Exactly. It allows our minds to kind of calm down and focus.
Okay.
And when we reduce stress, we protect our brain cells from the damaging effects of cortisol.
Right.
Plus, yoga and Tai Chi, they help improve balance, coordination, flexibility. So it's good for both our physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, I find that even a few simple stretches or deep breathing exercises can really, make a difference in my stress level.
Yeah.
And just kind of my overall mood.
Absolutely. Sometimes, all you need is a quick 5-minute break to just refocus and, tackle the rest of your day.
Totally. Okay, let's move on to mental training.
Okay.
So we discussed, brain plasticity and the importance of lifelong learning. But with so many options out there, it can be hard to know where to start.
Right.
So what are some concrete steps that listeners can take to really flex those mental muscles,
Well, one of the simplest and most effective ways to stimulate brain plasticity is to learn something new. Right. It could be a new language, a musical instrument, a coding skill, or even a new hobby like photography or gardening.
I think people really underestimate the power of hobbies.
Oh, absolutely. They can be so enriching and stimulating.
Totally.
And it doesn't have to be, a huge time commitment.
Right.
Even just 15, 20 minutes a day.
Okay.
Dedicating to learning something new can make a difference.
And there's so many online resources now, too.
Oh, tons of them. Language learning apps.
Right.
Online courses, YouTube tutorials.
Right.
The possibilities are endless.
It's about finding something that sparks your curiosity and keeps your brain engaged.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What about those classic brain games and puzzles?
Oh, yeah, those are great.
We mentioned a few earlier, but can you elaborate on the specific benefits they offer?
Sure. Puzzles and brain games are like cross-training for your mind. They challenge different cognitive skills like memory, attention, problem-solving, critical thinking.
Okay.
So, for example, Sudoku requires you to think logically, strategically.
Okay.
Crosswords expand your vocabulary, improve your verbal fluency. Games like chess and checkers enhance your spatial reasoning and planning abilities.
I used to think of brain games as something, like I said, my grandparents did, but I've recently rediscovered the joy of a good crossword puzzle.
They're so satisfying, aren't they?
They really are.
It's like, that aha moment when you finally figure it out.
Yeah, it's like a little victory.
It is a small victory, but it feels good.
Okay, so we've talked about, all these active brain boosting strategies.
Yeah.
But Brain Boost also talked about the importance of giving our minds a break.
Yes.
Right? And they emphasized, meditation and mindfulness as being these powerful tools for reducing stress and improving focus. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a meditation skeptic.
Yeah.
I can never seem to quiet my mind,
I understand.
So do you have any tips for those of us who struggle with meditation?
Well, meditation isn't about emptying your mind completely.
Okay.
It's more about becoming aware of your thoughts and just observing them without judgment.
Right.
It's about training your mind to focus on the present moment.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually practice mindfulness?
Well, there are lots of different techniques,
Yeah.
but a simple one to start with is focusing on your breath.
Okay.
So, you find a comfortable seated position, close your eyes, and just notice the rise and fall of your breath.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to control it, just observe it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds manageable.
Yeah.
And I think Brain Boost recommended starting with just 5 or 10 minutes a day.
Yeah, that's a good starting point.
Okay.
And then gradually increase the duration as you become more comfortable. Yeah, and there are also lots of, guided meditation apps available, which can be really helpful for beginners. They offer guided visualizations, breathing exercises, different techniques to help you kind of cultivate mindfulness.
You know what? I'm feeling a little less skeptical about meditation now. I might have to give one of those apps a try.
Yeah, I encourage you to.
I'm curious, what are some of the proven benefits of mindfulness?
Well, studies have shown that regular mindfulness practice can reduce stress and anxiety.
Great.
It can improve focus and concentration,
Right.
enhance emotional regulation, and even boost compassion and empathy.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
For both our mental and emotional well-being.
And the great thing is you can practice mindfulness anywhere. Anytime.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not just about formal meditation sessions.
Right. It's
about cultivating a mindful approach to life.
Right. So it's about bringing awareness to everyday activities.
Yes.
Like eating, walking, even washing dishes.
Exactly.
Okay. That's a great reminder. It's not just about sitting on a cushion.
Right.
With your eyes closed.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about being present in whatever you're doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of approaching life mindfully, let's talk about this other aspect of brain health that Brain Boost highlighted, our social connections and the importance of taking breaks from the digital world.
Yeah.
I think this is an area where a lot of us could improve.
Probably, yeah. It's easy to get caught up.
I know, I certainly can.
Yeah, in the digital world.
Yeah, our digital devices have become so integral to our lives that it's hard to disconnect.
It is.
But why is it so important for our brains to take a break from that digital world?
Well, as we discussed earlier, our brains thrive on social interaction.
Right.
But when we spend too much time online,
yeah,
it can come at the expense of those face-to-face connections.
Right. So it's easy to get caught up in the virtual world.
Yeah.
And neglect those real-life relationships.
Exactly.
But what about just the impact of screen time on our brains, regardless of social interaction?
Well, our brains are constantly bombarded with information and stimulation from our devices, and this can lead to mental fatigue, difficulty concentrating, even sleep disturbances.
I've definitely experienced that feeling of mental drain.
Oh, yeah.
After spending hours scrolling through social media or, working on the computer.
It's like our brains need time to decompress and recharge, just like our bodies do after a workout.
Okay, so what can we do to combat that digital overload?
Well, Brain Boost had some good suggestions. One is to be more intentional about our screen time.
Okay.
So instead of just mindlessly scrolling, ask yourself, what am I gaining from this?
Okay.
If the answer is not much,
right,
it might be time to put the phone down and engage in a more fulfilling activity.
Yeah, I think we often, we reach for our phones out of habit or boredom.
Absolutely.
Without really considering what we're getting out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, what are some other ways to kind of manage our screen time?
Well, setting boundaries can be helpful.
Okay.
for example, try designating certain times of day as screen-free zones.
Right.
Maybe no screens an hour before bed.
Okay.
Or during meal times.
Right.
This allows your brain to kind of rest and recharge. And it helps you be more present in the moment.
I love that. It's about finding that healthy balance.
Yes.
Right, between the digital world and the real world.
Absolutely. And it's not just about reducing screen time.
Right.
It's about replacing it. Yeah.
With activities that nourish our minds and bodies.
Right. So instead of, scrolling through social media, try reading a book.
Yes.
Going for a walk, spending time with loved ones, pursuing a hobby.
Exactly.
Those are all fantastic suggestions.
I hope so.
Well, we are going to take another quick break.
Okay.
When we return, we'll explore some of the latest research and cutting-edge techniques for optimizing brain health.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to our deep dive into brain power. We've covered so much ground already, from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and social connection. It's amazing how much we can do, right now to support our brain health.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what does the future hold for boosting brain power? What's on the horizon?
That's a great question. The field of neuroscience is constantly evolving, and there's some pretty fascinating new developments that have the potential to, revolutionize how we approach brain health.
Okay, you've got me intrigued. Let's hear about these brain-boosting breakthroughs.
All right, so one area that's generating a lot of buzz is the use of technology to actually enhance cognitive function.
Okay.
We're talking about things like brain-computer interfaces, neurofeedback training, virtual reality simulations.
Brain-computer interfaces. That sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
I know, right? It might sound futuristic, but it's becoming increasingly real.
Okay.
Researchers are developing devices that can actually read brain activity and translate it into commands.
Okay.
So this allows people to control computers or even prosthetic limbs with their thoughts.
Wow. I could see how that would be life-changing for people with disabilities.
Absolutely.
But how does this technology tie into, boosting brain power for the general population?
That's a good question. So some researchers believe that these interfaces could also be used to train and enhance cognitive function for anyone. Imagine a program that could monitor your brain activity during a challenging task and provide real-time feedback to help you improve your focus and performance.
Okay, yeah, that would be incredible. It's like having a personal brain coach right inside your head.
Exactly.
Is that something that's available now?
Well, the technology is still in its early stages.
Okay.
But there are some promising applications emerging. For example, some companies are developing neurofeedback games that use brainwave sensors to train attention and focus.
So brain-computer interfaces might be a little further down the road.
Yeah.
But neurofeedback training is something that's a little more accessible right now.
That's right. Neurofeedback is already being used to help people with conditions like ADHD and anxiety. And it involves, monitoring brain waves and using that information to teach people how to better regulate their brain activity.
So it's like biofeedback, but for the brain.
Exactly. It's empowering people to gain more control over their own brain activity and improve their cognitive function.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's not about directly controlling the brain.
Right.
But rather like learning
it's about
influence its patterns.
Yes, exactly.
Through feedback and training.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then there's virtual reality.
Oh, yeah. VR is another exciting area.
I've heard about that being used for phobia treatment and pain management.
Yeah.
But I hadn't considered its potential for, boosting brain power.
Yeah, it's being explored as a tool for creating these really immersive environments that can challenge and stimulate the brain in new ways. Imagine being able to, step into a virtual world where you can practice new skills or solve complex problems or even interact with others in realistic social situations.
Right, okay.
These virtual environments can be tailored to individual needs and goals.
Yeah.
And it provides a really personalized brain training experience.
It's like gamification to a whole new level.
Exactly. And because it's so immersive, it has the potential to tap into different learning pathways and create more lasting changes in the brain.
This is all so exciting, but it also makes me wonder, like, are these technologies accessible to like the average person, or are they still mostly in the realm of research labs?
Well, it's a mix. Some of these technologies, like neurofeedback training, are becoming increasingly available to the public.
Right.
They're even like consumer-grade neurofeedback devices that you can purchase for home use.
So people can actually experiment with these brain-boosting tools without needing access to a fancy lab.
Exactly, exactly. But other technologies like brain-computer interfaces are still largely in the experimental phase and can be quite expensive.
Okay, so it's a rapidly evolving field with a lot of exciting potential.
Absolutely.
But it's still early days for some of these more advanced technologies.
Yeah, but the key takeaway here is that the future of brain health is bright.
Yeah.
And it's not just about these high-tech advancements.
Right.
You know, the strategies we discussed earlier, eating a brain-healthy diet, getting regular exercise, engaging in mental stimulation, nurturing social connections. Those are all like tried and true methods for keeping our brains sharp and healthy.
Absolutely. Sometimes we get so caught up in the next big thing that we forget about the foundational practices that are already within our reach.
I couldn't agree more. It's like building a house, you know? You need a strong foundation before you can add all the fancy features.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
I think so too.
We've explored the science of brain health, delved into practical strategies, and even peeked into the future of brain-boosting technology.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, it really has.
And I hope our listeners feel empowered to take charge of their own brain health.
Me too, me too. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave our listener with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
I challenge you to pick one brain-boosting strategy we discussed today and commit to incorporating it into your life this week.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as, adding walnuts to your breakfast, or trying a 5-minute mindfulness exercise, or maybe you're feeling adventurous and you want to, sign up for that Zumba class or explore a new hobby. Whatever it is, make it a priority to nourish your brain and unlock its incredible potential.
I love that. Small steps can lead to big changes.
Yes.
Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and most importantly, have fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of brain power. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep those brains sharp.